Hey everyone, coming to you from the woods behind my house. This video, part 3 of a series where we're going to discuss motivation, other aspects ranging from self-coaching, and even how to handle mistakes. Stay tuned for some tips on how to improve the mental preparation in your training plan. The first two parts of this video series were Road to Nowhere and Summon the Gainer. These are examples of different types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. So those are parts 1 and 2 to this video. I suggest you check the links in the description box below, check those out, and then come back and watch this video if you hadn't already seen them. This video, like I said, is going to range from motivation to some other things, some tools, tips, tricks, things that are going to help your mental preparation in your training. So I hope you like those first two and this one right here, because this is some really high quality information that's going to go a long way in improving your training plan. Topic number 1. We've got motivation, both internal and external motivation. The external motivation are things like those hype videos. Summon the Gainer, you watch that, you get pumped to go train. That's your external motivation. You need to think of that as the spark that gets the fuse going. If you're always using external motivation sources, it's going to be really hard to think deeply and rely upon that internal motivation source, which is a much stronger, more concrete foundation of motivation, and that's the one that's going to get you to your goal. So in my opinion, using those things like Summon the Gainer, these hype videos, other sources of external motivation are great means to get you off your butt and into the gym, start training hard, but it's not what you should need every time you go train. Using external motivation sources completely needs to exist for the sole purpose of getting you to train and then getting you to start thinking about why you train. Leading me to the road to nowhere, posing that question, why do we lift? Now, my reason of why I lift is really for no other reason than it makes me feel better physically and mentally. So that's my specific purpose that I have for training. That's my internal motivation. Identifying the purpose of why you're training is going to be the first thing that you need to do when you're determining that internal motivation source. Once you have a purpose, the task becomes almost impossible to not accomplish. People with a purpose get things done. Think about why you're training, and you're never going to have a hard time accomplishing your goal. Topic number 2, we have visualization. Just to understand how powerful this tool is, the U.S. Olympic team took 9 sports psychologists with them to the Sochi Winter Olympics. If that's something that you think an Olympian could benefit from, I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you could probably benefit from it too. Another thing to consider, study linked below, as well as with an article about those sports psychologists in the Sochi Olympics. This study, though, is about skiers using dynamic visualization. So they had them all suited up on the slopes, visualizing going down the slope, and guess what? It had a direct positive impact on their performance. That study's linked below, as well as a short video that kind of demonstrates if you don't want to read through all of that kind of stuff. It's a very interesting thing to understand the power of the mind having a direct impact on what you can do physically. Now, the last thing I want you to watch, a really awesome video, is Billy Mills winning the 10,000 meter race, gold, I think 1967 Olympics. Just a phenomenal video about his self-belief and the power of visualizations that he used, which drove him to win one of the greatest races probably in the history of the Olympics. So make sure you check out those links below regarding visualizations, because I really feel if you're doubting the efficacy of this tool, those things are going to change your mind. Tip number 1 for visualizations, film yourself. By filming yourself, you're giving a third-person perspective that is much more easy to adopt in your imagination and make your visualizations happen a lot quicker. This is something that most people don't consider, but by filming yourself, you're kind of giving a third-person frame of reference, making it a lot easier to develop these things specific to your ability, leading me to my next point. You've got to visualize specifics. You have to visualize things that you are close to actually being able to do. If you're a 600-pound puller, imagining a 1,000-pound pull is kind of intermixing external and internal motivation, and I would recommend against that. By being specific with your visualizations, both in your ability, the setting, it's going to make them much more powerful. It's going to carry over to your training plan, and it's going to improve you as a lifter so much faster. I really suggest you check those links out in the description box below about visualizations. Give them some credit, give them some practice, because it's going to have a huge positive impact on your training. Last bit about visualizations. It's much like meditating. It takes practice to improve. So if you can't see yourself squatting 5, 10, 15 pounds heavier than what you're doing right now, just give it some time. Practice. Include a visualization time in your training plan. Every single day, you should give yourself a moment to think about your training, reflect internally, and visualize those lifts. This is a skill that you can use before every single training session, and I almost guarantee it's going to make all your training sessions better simply by imagining them. How crazy is that? Topic number 3, self-coaching. This is going to rely upon 3 skills that I have found to be most helpful in my own self-coaching. I've never had a coach in powerlifting. I've accomplished some reasonably good things inside that sport. I've accomplished some other reasonably good things outside of powerlifting as well. And the 3 skills that are going to help you most, at least in my opinion, are improving your focus, your confidence, and your composure. These 3 skills, focus, confidence, and composure, all kind of circle around and help each other out. The first one being focus, and that kind of gets your mind on the now. The biggest problem that I've had as an athlete is dwelling in the past, and this was especially early on in my training. I would see how I had made a mistake, focus on that, not think about what I needed to do right then in that moment to improve the future. Chipmunk agrees. So by thinking about the now, you're not dwelling in the past, and your focus is on what's happening right now. Having a split focus is not going to do you any good. Stay focused on that next task at hand, and it's going to make it a lot easier to take that next step. I'll talk about that more later in the video. The next thing is confidence. And of course everyone talks about increasing confidence, and you can watch all these other videos about how to increase your confidence, but really confidence just comes down to the power of self-belief. With confidence, the number one thing that has helped me is just going back to my training plans, looking at the data, seeing where I have won in my training, reflecting on my PRs. I've got proof that I've kicked ass in training. Why would I not be confident going into a competition? The next piece with confidence is having a plan and sticking to that plan. It goes back to having data to look back to when you have that period of self-doubt. You need to plan on that happening. By having data and by having a plan and sticking to that plan, it makes it so much easier to be confident. Last but not least, you need to be honest with your training and give yourself credibility with your training, how consistent you've been, and you got to do all these things. It's really easy to be negative and doubt ourselves and say, I could have done this better and this and this and this. But when you're having a period of self-doubt, that's not the way that you need to be talking to yourself. You need to look at the data, see where you won, convince yourself that you're a winner, because guess what? You've busted your ass so far to get to that point, and if you're honest along that way, you're going to be looking back, you've got nothing but evidence about how much you've been kicking ass. The last skill in this circle of self-coaching is composure. By remaining composed during periods of high stress, you're going to have stronger clarity of thought. It's going to be easier to identify problems and plan for a correction. And if you can stay composed, it's going to make it a lot easier to accomplish your goal. When you find yourself losing composure, the 2 things that have helped me is 1, focusing on my breathing. Breath control is huge. Big deep breaths, exhale all the air from your lungs. Make sure you're not taking short, shallow, panic breaths. Controlling your breathing will be the first step in improving your composure during a high stress environment. Next up to that is posture. If you would just sit up straight, stand up tall, be proud, put your chin up, it's going to make your composure much stronger. They've done studies where if you're smiling, your brain reacts as if you were actually happy. So what's happening on the outside is going to affect what's on the inside. Stay composed by remaining in control of your breath and your posture, and that is going to feed directly back into focus, your confidence, and your composure. These 3 skills are absolutely critical in improving the skill you have in self-coaching. Topic number 4, your mistakes are your progress. The thing we must remember about mistakes, though, is that once it happens, let it go. Wait until well after that training day, maybe just after the competition, and then take a moment to reflect on what that mistake was, why it was caused, how you can fix it, and how you can change your training plan to make that fix effective. So with mistakes, take them as a lesson learned. Understand they're a part of the progress. They're part of it. Mistakes are going to come. Without mistakes, it's hard to learn. It's honestly hard to make progress. I kind of look forward to making mistakes sometimes because it gives me an opportunity to sit down and really be honest with myself. Because a lot of times it's easy to bullshit ourselves into thinking we're doing something the way it needs to be done. Once you make a mistake though, it's a really hard reality check, and after that mistake is done, let it go when it happens, continue on with the training plan, stay focused on the now, and then later recall the mistake, understand the fix, make that fix happen. It's going to make you fear mistakes less. Regarding training mistakes, there are basically two types. The one that happens right away and an immediate response to that, 99% of the time, the best thing that a lifter can do for self-coaching or a coach can do for their lifter is to give a coaching cue. This is kind of like when you're in your competition. Your knees cave in on your second attempt. It's the third attempt. It's a PR attempt. Your coach gives you a cue, spread the floor so you can keep those knees out. That's a training mistake that happens, and in that case, dwelling on it and not staying focused on that third attempt is going to make that lifter's third attempt so much harder. The only fix you can do in that case, most of the time, is to use a coaching cue. But that's not what I'm talking about here when utilizing mistakes effectively. Mistakes, big ones that you need to think about and implement to fix into a long-term training plan, that's the stuff I'm talking about. For me, an example was, again, with my squat. The posture was a problem. I saw that I needed to change the way I squat, so I started implementing front squats and high bar squats. Now I'm almost exclusively squatting high bar, and I've squatted heavier weights than I've ever done before versus low bar. I identified the problem with my training plan. I implemented a fix. I hadn't dwelled on the mistake. I was like, yeah, whatever. It wasn't wasted time. I have a place to go, and that's stronger. Implement the fix, stick to the plan, get stronger. That's how you utilize mistakes to improve your training plan. Topic number 5, building motivation into your training. Essentially what this is doing is giving yourself an open-ended workout, giving yourself an opportunity to see some progress in some way, whether that's weight, reps, form improvement, consistency. There's so many other ways to progress. As long as you build those things into your training plan and give yourself an opportunity to see those forms of improvement, you're making progress. That's inherently going to have a positive impact on your training. Linked below is an Instagram post from Bryce Lewis. Super strong guy, great coach, very knowledgeable from everything that I've heard about him. And it really describes the different ways you can set up a training plan to have a positive impact on your athletes or your own performance. This is absolutely huge. Having the right structure to your training plan is going to be inherent to the effect of its success. If an athlete doesn't enjoy training, if you don't enjoy training, it's going to be hard to make progress. A few specific things that you can focus on in your training to increase its motivation inherently. Goals that are non-weight or volume specific. These are subjective goals. These are goals that are more quality focused by thinking about, was that rep faster than I've squatted that weight before? You don't need to have a Tendo unit to have an understanding if you're moving fast or not. And videoing yourself is actually going to help you out here. So you can focus on things like speed, the consistency of your reps across sets and across reps within a set. Those are different ways that you can improve your training and see progress without relying on weight or volume. As you get stronger, it's hard to come by those victories. You need to focus on some other qualitative measures to see progress, and that's going to feed directly back into your motivation. If the structure of your training plan does not give you the opportunity to win, you're going to have a hard time winning in competition. You need to make sure your training is specific to your competition. Now, this seems pretty obvious in training planning, but are you implementing specific mental training preparation in your training plan right now? Many of us probably not. The training plan mentally just important as the one physically. You need to ensure your mental preparation plan is specific to your abilities, specific to your settings, specific to your needs, and make sure that lines up with your specific physical training plan. By doing so, you're training like you're fighting, and this is a mantra that I learned while in the Marine Corps, and it was very effective in making sure that the applicability of my training carried over directly and had a strong positive impact on what I was doing in the competition setting. Concluding this video in the TP, the thing to take away is that your mental training plan is just as important as your physical training plan. And these two things feed off of each other, and they build upon each other, and the better you can implement each one, the better you will be. So remember, understand the differences between motivation, internal and external, how you should use them, and the ways that you could use them effectively. Build on your skill of visualization. Remember to film yourself, very helpful. Use self-coaching skills of focus, confidence, composure. Know those three things feed off of each other as well, and they go in that circle. Make sure you're not getting outside that circle when you're trying to self-coach by getting distracted by your mistakes. Those mistakes are periods of lessons learned. Take them as a moment of reflection. Use them to win. And last but not least, build motivation into your training plan. Your training plan should excite you. It should get you hungry to train every single time you're in the gym. It should give you an opportunity to win every time you're in the gym. The effort of accomplishing the goal will get you to your goal. If you don't focus on making that effort as best as you can, it's going to be hard to get to your goal. An example of this is doing long hikes. I did a lot of these as an infantryman, and I kind of suck at them. I'm short as hell, and long hikes with 100-pound packs plus gear and rifles and all that stuff was miserable. Making 20 kilometers, pretty hard. But by focusing on the task that's ahead of me, the effort of taking that next step, I got to the end every single time. It's a great analogy for your training. Focus on what's ahead of you. Focus on that next step, and it's the effort that you're focusing on. Take this mental stuff seriously. Look at those links below. They're all really awesome, and trust me, when I need some external motivation, I'm watching Summon the Gainer. I'm watching that Billy Mills video, the Michael Jordan video that's linked down there. Hope you liked the video. Got any questions about improving your mental training? Leave comments in the description box below. If you got a suggestion on a future video, also leave that in the comments box below. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you like the forest, because I sure as heck do.